Welcome back. We'll start with the next chapter of Gauci-Lyeong that talks about the steppes climatic condition. Now, in the diagram that we have seen, we have covered most of the hot zones and the equatorial zones. Now, coming on to the steppes climate that we would be covering today. First of all, steppes, the key points are steppes is a grassland climate. So, you have lots of grasses. Some of them are tall grasses. However, this region is treeless, so that's one of the major characteristics of steppes type. So this is a treeless biome. That is one of the main key characteristics that we would understand today. Now coming on to the map here, we would understand the major characteristics of some of the grasslands that exist worldwide. So in the North America, you have prairies that exist. In the South America, you have pampas, then you have steppes in the Eurasian region. Now these are some of the most heard or the commonly heard grasslands that you would have heard of. Now coming on to some other importance, in South Africa you have velds and in Australia you have downs. So these are some of the major grasslands across the world that we would understand. Now all these grasslands border the desert area and the Mediterranean climate on either sides. Again, one of the major characteristic is there is a kind of differentiation in the climatic conditions of the grasslands in the north hemisphere and the south hemisphere. South hemisphere are close to the westerly belt or the ocean current that flows in. However, in the north hemisphere, they are more based on they are more continental, I would say. So they are located within the continents and away from the maritime influence. So they are kind of treeless, as we said. So these are some of the key characteristics of key features of the steppes climatic condition. Now as we said, south hemisphere the climatic conditions are more moderate. Now coming on to the independent ones, prairies we already saw in North America. Now this exists between the Rockies and the Great Lakes. Pampas in South America exist in the region of Argentina and Uruguay. Steppes exist from Black Sea to Altai mountain. They are broken and isolated. They are separated by Hungary mountain, the Pustas region in Hungary and the Manchurian plains. So those are the breaks in the mountains where you don't have the steppes type of climate. Again, you have velds in South Africa. You have velds that lie between the Drakensberg and the Kalahari desert area. Now they are further subdivided into two, the bush velds in the north and high velds in the south. Then you have downs in Australia where you have the Murray-Darling basin. Now coming on to the climate and precipitation, which is very important. Now since it's continental, as we said in the north hemisphere, these are extensive and continental. So there are huge extremes in the temperature that are seen. Summers being very hot to winters being very cold. So winters you have negative temperature, summers you have temperature up to 66 to 76 degree Fahrenheit. However, if you move on to the south hemisphere, the temperature is more mild because of the moderating effect of the nearby oceans or the water body. Now coming on to the rainfall, rainfall is usually light, varies from 10 to 30 inches, the average being 20 inches in the north hemisphere. However, the south hemisphere has much heavier rainfall as compared to the north hemisphere, and in the south you have an average of 26 inches that was seen. Again, the south hemisphere has more rainfall due to the fact that the warm ocean currents wash the shore of the steppes region in there. Again, you have occasional depressions of westerlies that are seen which lead to snowfall in certain areas. However, the rainfall here overall is mainly due to the conventional effect. That means you have the heating of the land that leads to the rainfall. So we have three types of rainfall: the conventional rainfall, orographic rainfall and frontal rainfall. Rainfall in the steppes region is mainly predominantly due to the conventional, that is due to the heating of the land surface. Now there are numerous winds that blow into this region. The most important wind that we will talk about today is Chinook. This is similar to the Fohn wind in Switzerland. Now Chinook blows in United States from the southwest direction. So it blows from the southwesterly direction of prairies and causes depressions in the Rockies area and in the prairies area. These are hot winds. They lead the snow to melt, and finally you have the region that is affected by it. Now in the south hemisphere there is one specific characteristic. Since there are extremes of temperature, the summers are very hot. This hot summer would lead to drought conditions. This drought condition is highly harmful for the ship rearing industry in south hemisphere. So ship rearing industry is adversely affected by the drought conditions due to extreme of climatic conditions. Mildura lies at the fringe of Malay scrub of the Great Australian Desert. That's again very important. Now coming on to the vegetation pattern. As we said, this region is predominantly treeless. However, there are few trees like willow, elder and poplar that are rarely seen, or they are scanty, though they are not more in number. Then you have grasses which are predominantly there. Now these grasses usually are of an average height. In some cases where the rainfall is more than 20 inches, the grasses are tall. For example, the prairies region, you have the tall grasses that are seen, and then you have the Chernozem region in Ukraine area of Russia, and the Asiatic steppes where you have the tall grasses that are seen. In the other areas where the rain is less than 20 inches, you have short grasses with discontinuous clumps and bare soil that are found. Again, when it's a kind of drought season, the grasses are dormant. In the summers, so the best time for the grasses to grow is the spring season, where they are green, they blossom out, and you have kind of lot of flowering season that occurs. Again, this spring is the busiest time for the herdsmen, because ship rearing and kind of domestication of animals become easy activity for the springtime. When it comes to summer, it's hot and a lot of water gets evaporated. The grass turns yellow and brown. When it comes to autumn, the grass nearly dies out, but the roots still remain alive, which can grow up in the next spring season. So moreover, in the autumn you would see a kind of bare region there. Winters are very harsh and long. Now this region is known for two kinds of wheat that are grown, the spring wheat and the winter wheat that we would see later, which is more specific to United States when it comes. Now again, precipitation occurs as transitional zone. So you have, as you move high, you have conifers that would appear. However, those are very less, and the regions where you have the residential community or the farmhouse, you would have a double row of trees, and that double row of trees help to avoid any kind of violent winds or kind of wind damage that could occur in the nearby area. Now economic activity, as we said, grazing of animals is the best activity or the most popular activity. Now this differs from region to region. In the steppes you mainly have the wild horses. The nomad people here are known as Kyrgyz, and they roam with a kind of huge herd of animals along with them. In the prairies you have mainly the bisons. Red Indians are the predominant people in the prairies areas. Prairies are considered as the most sparsely populated regions of the world. That means you have the least population density that is found in the prairies. Now again, when it comes to farming, there are two types of farming: extensive farming and intensive farming. India is a land of intensive farming, where you have less land and more labor. So you have land is less and labor is more. However, in case of prairies in the United States, you have extensive land that is available and few people are working on that land. So yield per man is different in both the cases, and you have the mechanization that could occur only when there is extensive farming, because you would have tractors and combine harvesters that can roll around a huge tract of land. These prairies are also known as the granaries of world for two things. First is wheat production and also for the maize production. Then comes the pampas in South America. You have the untamed buffalo that are commonly found here. alfalfa grass or licorine grass is the most popular grass to feed the animals, and pampas are one of the leading ranching regions of the world. Then comes the nomadic herdsmen. Now, as we said, steppes are known for nomadic tribes. So, you have the people who are moving from one place to another. The common examples are Kyrgyz, Kazakh and Kalmuk. They travel long distances to get water and grass. They domesticate animals. Now, they use the various parts of animals for various things. For example, the wool from the sheep and other animals is used for tent and garments. The leather from the animals is used for boots, saddles and belts. The bones and the horns of the animals are used for tools, utensils and weapons. Then you have some trading post or exchange of commodities where they exchange these commodities for gums, canned food, tea, coffee, sugar and other food products. Now what is happening over the years is these Kyrgyz, Kazakhs and Kalmuks are moving towards a kind of settled life. Government is forcing them to move towards a settled life, and collective farming and state farms for ranching are developing more and more. However, some of the Kyrgyz are tough and fearless people who are known as Tartars. Now comes the various types of cultivation mechanism. The first is the extensive cultivation. As we already told, extensive cultivation requires large area of land, so mechanization is possible. Again, in the cool moist spring season, you have early growth and light showers. In the summer areas, you have harvesting that occurs and the straw is dried out. Then you try to level out the land for plowing and harvesting. The mechanized plow loosens the land, and then you have the various machines like harvesters, winnows that could be used only for large patches of land. For small lands that are bifurcated among generations, you cannot use these kinds of devices. So that's one of the major things. Then you have the yield. The yield is very, very important. Despite the extensive wheat cultivation that is seen here, you have very low yield. For prairies, it's only 23 bushels per acre. 1 bushel is equal to 60 pounds or 8 gallons by volume. So you have pampas with 20 bushel, prairies with 23 bushel. However, for UK and Netherlands, the production goes up to 50 bushel or 59 bushels. So the productivity is very less despite the huge area. However, the yield per man is highest because there are very few people who are working on the farms, and you have very high production that occurs there. Again, the greatest quality of wheat per capita among the world comes from here, and this area is considered as the biggest exporter of wheat. 3/4 of the wheat comes from Canada, is exported to Europe, and 3/4 of the world's wheat is the winter wheat. Now what's the difference between the winter wheat and the spring wheat? That is very, very important. Winter wheat is also known as hard wheat. It's mainly used for making breads. It has low moisture and it is ripened in the hot summer. It is found mainly in the regions of Great Lakes in United States. So if you have the map of United States here, you have the 5 Great Lakes which we remember as Holmes, Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie and Superior. So these are the 5 lakes, and the region surrounding these 5 lakes you would have the hard wheat or the winter wheat. However, spring wheat is the soft wheat used for making cakes, pastries or biscuits, and as you move poleward, the winter temperature is too cold, so you have the spring wheats that come in. Maize is mainly grown in the warm areas, and wheat is grown up to the Peace River in Canada. Now there are some pastoral activities that are seen. Initially there were very few animals that were reared in this region. However, now you have cattle, sheep, pig and horse. So two main crops of this region are the wheat and maize, and the two main animals are cattle and sheep. So what happens is, with the advent of mechanization and technology coming in, you have more refrigeration facilities that are available, and with the refrigeration facilities in the 19th century, export of meat, mutton, wool and hides have become much easier. Dairy products like milk, butter and cheese are also exported. Then you have tough grass that is plowed, and this is now replaced by alfalfa grass, which is considered more nutritious, and this alfalfa is highly predominant in the Pampas area in South America. Then you have the cattle that are being crossed with the imported breeds from Europe, so that you have much better yields. Coming to Pampas in South America, Pampas is one of the leading exporters of beef production. Now these Pampas are, you have kind of large estates that are maintained or large ranches that are established, and those are known as estancias. Now these are linked to Figuericos, which are the meat processing factories, and these are located on the coastal areas. Some of the towns like Buenos Aires, Bahia Blanca, Fray Bentos and Montevideo are some of the towns which are located on the coastal areas in South America, and these developed as the meat processing factories, which are known as Frigicos. So both these terms are important for your objective purpose, and also for your subjective purposes. You have the kind of what is the steppes climate, the characteristics of steppes climate, the difference between the regions growing winter wheat and spring wheat is again very important. Australia, similarly Pampas or South America is known for the export of beef. Australia is known for as the leading producer of wool, exporter of wool, and 1/3 of the production comes from Australia. Steppes is also known for ranching of the meat production industry. So with this we covered the 20th chapter of Gocheng Liang. We will be covering the further chapters in the upcoming lectures. Stay tuned, and if you have any doubts or suggestions, do leave those as comment below the video. Have a good day ahead.